the Romantic period of music. First, let's talk about when the Romantic era was. If you can see on the screen there, the Romantic era happened from around 1820 to early 1900s. During this time, the Romantic period's composers dealt a lot with playing their emotions, thus greatly expanding the richer harmonic languages. If anybody's been here since the beginning, where we talked about the medieval time, it was very solemn, basically. So they didn't have any of the different harmonies and stuff like that. And then they started adding the harmony and stuff. And now we're just building from that. So, in this period, creators also endeavored to capture a broader array of feelings influenced by the natural world, literary works, artistic expressions, and their journeys. The characteristic music of this era stands for its profound emotional resonance, marked by the dramatic variations in intensity and wide-ranging expressive melodies.
So, what does that mean? That it's more expressive melodies?
So, I'll probably explain this a little bit later with other composers, but that basically meant that they would take the music and you can basically figure out how the composer felt just by listening to their music. So if it was very loud and all over the place, then they might have been angry about something. Or if it was sweet like a lullaby, then they might feel, I don't know, they just maybe yeah, calm, yeah. Or yeah, calm and stuff like that. So you could, when you listen to the Romantic music, you can hear a lot about how the composers felt about different things. Even though the composers from the Romantic period sometimes use old styles like the symphonies and the orchestras, or symphonies and concertos, they also changed these up to express more feeling and develop the music ideas further. They tried out new kinds of music and did not stick to the old rules, giving them more room to be creative.
All right, so what does that mean for the music then? So before we were in the classical period, right? In the classical period, there was a very rigid structure to the rules, right? And how the music was written, and everybody kind of stayed within those boundaries, right, of the music.
You have until 1:30.
But now, what did he just say? They were starting to do what?
Romantic stuff.
Romantic era was not from. Okay.
They were starting to break away from those rules and be more creative, right? So just like the pictures that you just made, did you need to be creative to make those? Yes, you had to think about things and then trying to recreate things in your mind and then put that down on paper, and that's what they were doing.
They were trying to make pictures with the music. Yep. Orchestras got bigger, adding more instruments to mix up the sounds even more, and composers focused on how to put all of these sounds together using the bigger range to make the music that hits all kinds of notes and feelings. In the Romantic era, composers frequently looked to their country's folk music and stories, infusing their compositions with natural identity and heritage, preserved a departure from the classical era's more global perspective, emphasizing the significance of local traditions and the personal connection to one's homeland. Key figures from the Romantic era include Ludwig van Beethoven, along with Franz Schubert, Felix Mendelssohn, Frederick Chopin, Robert Schumann, Johann Brahms, Richard Wagner, and a whole bunch of people that I won't name. What's cool about the Romantic period is that some of the composers from the Romantic period were also alive in the classical era, so they would kind of go through the different types of eras, such as the composer that we learned about last month, Franz Schubert. He was alive during the classical and the Romantic era, so he played music around both time periods.
And sometimes you saw that their music that they played the classical era, eventually that music started to change and it had a different feeling to it as they got older.
So during the Romantic era, the piano became crucial to music thanks to improvements in its design and the new expressive ways it was used. Composers like Chopin, right here, and Liszt, which we'll learn about both of those in this slide, They were key in unlocking the piano's potential, making it a favorite for solo performances. They pushed the piano beyond its limits, experimenting with its expressive power and technical possibilities. Japan was famous for its emotional depth, while Liszt brought unmatched virtuosity, both changing the piano how it was played and heard. Their innovation made for the piano central to romantic music, able to convey a wide range of emotions and stories. We won't be able to get through everything about Liszt in this session. I think we might be able to do that more in May. But Liszt actually would steal other people's compositions and try to arrange it, and then basically tell everybody that it was his own arrangement. Yes.
Didn't he worry about copyright infringement?
I don't think that was a thing back then. Nowadays, if you did that, I'm pretty sure that there would be some type of legal fines and stuff like that. But yes, Liszt would take different musical compositions, especially from Beethoven, and he would take those compositions and he would kind of arrange it just enough to where he would call it his own composition, and people would believe him for that. Yeah, that's basically what it is. The Romantic period deeply influenced Western classical music by expanding its emotional depth and paving the way for innovations in the 20th century. This era highlighted the importance of personal expression, national identity, and storytelling in music, influences that continue to shape music across various genres today. Next, let's talk about some composers from this period. First, we'll start with Chopin. Frederick Chopin. Chopin was born on February 22nd, 1810, but for some reason, whenever he was asked his birthday, he would always say March 1st. His parents' names were Nicholas and Tekla Justina Chopin. By the age of 7, Frederick showed that he was a child prodigy and wrote his first pieces at the age of 7. He wrote his first Polonius in B major and G and used improvisation. At the age of 23, he wrote Opus 10, a collection of famous and challenging songs. A few of these songs' names were Waterfall and Revolutionary. Revolutionary was a song that he wrote while his country was at war. So if you ever have a chance to listen to Revolutionary, it's all over the piano. I'm pretty sure he uses about every single key that's on the piano. At the end of Chopin's life, he had composed 59 mazurkas, 27 etudes, 27 preludes, 21 nocturnes, and 20 waltzes. So, yeah, he wrote a lot of different things. Chopin knew Bach, Liszt, and Kalkbrenner. Kalkbrenner, Liszt, and Bach, those were different composers. I think they were all German, if I'm not mistaken. All right. And then we have the song Waterfall here. Let me turn it up. Think of a waterfall as you listen to this. right. Who thought of a waterfall while listening to that song? You think that he portrayed that message clearly? Maybe, maybe not. That yeah. So the waterfall was what he was trying to portray, and then the other one, which we didn't have time to show yet. If you wanted to listen to that one too, that would be great. Next, Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky. This is spelled weird because he was a Russian composer. So that is Peter. It's not Piotr or anything like that. Yes, it's Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky was born on May 7th, 1840, to Elia and Alexandra Tchaikovsky. He also had 5 siblings. Tchaikovsky was a smart child and was able to sight read better than his piano teacher at the age of 8. Yep. Um, let's see. His parents encouraged him in music, but they didn't think of it as a serious career path, so they sent him to the Imperial School of Jurisprudence, something like that. Jurisprudence. While he was in school, his mother died of cholera in 1854. This made him write his first piece of music, which was a waltz. After completing his studies, Tchaikovsky took a job as a civil servant in 1859, stepping into the responsibilities of adult life. However, he realized that his career was not fulfilling for him. In search of a deeper connection to his passions, he joined the music convention in St. Petersburg in 1862. This was a time when audiences sought music that offered more depth and emotional resonance, a quality that Tchaikovsky's work came to embody very greatly.
All right, let's look at this picture back here of one of his works from that period of time. I know it's probably hard to see on the screen, but does that kind of look like the notes that you guys are used to playing?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Does that look like a lot of scribble on there?
Yeah.
Yes, it does, right? In fact, you can see where he made a little mistake and he just scratched it out because he was writing this in pen and they didn't have erasers, right? So he just went
That's a common technique.
like that. Yeah, that's a common technique. Scratch it out, right? But back then, they probably didn't have a lot of reprinting, right? They didn't have copy machines back then, right? So sometimes they would write something and then go and play it, and someone else would have to make a copy of it. Yes.
The printing press was invented in like 500, 1500.
Right. Yeah, they did have the printing press, but maybe they didn't always have access to it because that was kind of considered a more expensive thing, right? So if they would just needed to make a copy of their music, they may not have had that luxury of making that, right?
All right, so
before we go on, I have a piece that one of our students is going to play from Tchaikovsky on the piano over here. So she has a piece prepared. So go ahead. If you can move that over here. Put it next to the piano.
They heard this earlier.
Yes. Yeah, you heard part of this earlier when you were coloring your pictures.
Let's see. Just making sure it's turned up.
Yep.
Hopefully I don't mess this up.
Very nice. All right, so I want you to play one part there where it flashes, where it almost sounds like you hit the wrong note, but that's exactly how it's written. So play that clashy part right there.
Which clashy part? There's multiple.
I think it's yeah.
Or maybe.
You're right. Yep. So the part we were working on the other day where it just flashes. Right there. That doesn't sound right, does it? But it's clashing, it's creating tension. And in music, we have tension and then we have resolution, which is the next part. Right, there's that resolution. Okay? Very good. Thank you very much, Ashlyn, for playing that for us.
All right, and then before we move over to the next composer, I want you to listen to a song that probably many of you guys are at least familiar with. It's called The Nutcracker. Now, this suite was over an hour and a half long, but there's a certain part that I think almost everybody knows. So I'm going to play that part. Huh. Oh, no. Okay, let's see. There. I am. I could. Do you want me to escape? And then if you, yes. There.
Oh, that didn't work out. Have you heard that part before?
Yeah, okay. I think since you've... Let's put... Ah, okay.
Every time you do that, it won't do that. Just play it from the small.
Okay. Oh, looks like it works. Okay.
Does it look like he's having fun? Yeah. Is he showing how to be expressive for the instruments? Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's a little bit of a glimpse of that suite. Next is Robert Schumann. Robert was born on June 8th, 1810 in Zwaku, Germany. Right around there in Germany. His father was a writer and bookseller who encouraged Robert's love for literature. Shortly after, when he was 16, his father passed away. By the urge of his mother, he studied law until 1830, where he quit to devote his life to music. Schumann was in charge of a Schumann was in charge of a music newspaper where he proofread and edited it. Schumann was known to set a scene for a song and portray that scene within the first few measures of the song. His songs' names were creative, like Scenes from Childhood and Butterfly. The next song that we're going to show is one of them that he wrote called Scenes from Childhood. Just noticing how all of these composers have something in common, that is, that they all try to portray some type of picture in your mind or some type of feeling in your mind while they were playing that music. Let's see if this thing will play. Good. All right, so that was his song. All right, next would be Franz Liszt.
Oh yeah, keep a list.
That was how, yeah, that's how you would say his name. All right, Franz Liszt was born on October 22nd, 1811 in Rating, Austria. His father, Adam, taught Franz Liszt piano when he was showed an interest at age 6. Age 6. Yes, age 6. Liszt's father worked for Prince Nicholas II. He also knew Beethoven and Haydn. One of Beethoven's best pupils, Karl Czerny, which was another composer, taught young Liszt the piano, but didn't like the style of his playing. Franz also studied with Antonio Salieri. You guys remember him from
Salieri? Remember?
I think it was from the Baroque period.
from classical?
He was from
Yep.
Oh, the classic.
Him and Mozart.
Mozart did not get along. That was like his arch nemesis.
They eventually became friends.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe at the end of their life they're like, hey, let's become friends. Maybe. Okay. Liszt's first musical performance was in 1822 when he was 11. He also played a well-known concerto called a Hummel concerto, which he also put some of his own music into. Mozart and Schubert were there, and Mozart was impressed. We learned about Beethoven. I think we learned about Schubert too, although I'm not completely sure if we did. He was another composer there. One of the hardest songs on the piano, called La Campanella, was written by Liszt. And so we have, yes.
He's basically the guy who composes the hardest songs.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Liszt was his last name. Franz was his first name, so his full name was Franz Liszt. Yes. So the song that I'm about to play, I'll play a little bit of the first part, and then I'll kind of skip towards the end, just so that you know how hard that was. And you see right there, there's 5 sharps there. Yeah. So if you're playing that along with flying all over the keyboard, it's not going to be that fun, especially for practicing. Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that every time that Franz Liszt sat down and tried to play that, the piano was probably crying inside. Just saying. Yes, very few can play this. Only people that have real passion for music. All right, so I'll play the first little part and then I'll kind of skip towards the end.
You told us this is one of the hardest pieces on
Yes.
the piano?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
And then afterwards, David's going to demonstrate it for us.
I do not know how to play this. No way.
Oh, he can. I can only dream of playing that.
Okay, and then so that was the first part. Let's see. That's not the part that was hard. Let me see. I'm gonna try to skip towards the end. There. This is the part. He's just sweating profusely.
I just saw some hair fall out too.
Wait, what? He's sweating.
Yes.
He's sweating.
He's sweating because of this.
Mm-hmm. Now do you guys understand why that's probably one of the hardest songs on the piano? Yeah.
Yeah, basically, Litz is basically the final boss. So
Yeah. He was crazy. All right. Next composer that we're going to talk about, we have this one, and then we have another composer that we'll talk about. Then we'll be finished and we get to eat. Okay? Johannes Brahms. Who's ever heard of the song Brahms Lullaby? Raise your hand. Probably everybody's heard it. Probably everybody's heard it. Yes. That's probably one of the overplayed songs on the piano. One of the many. Brahms was born on May 7th, 1833 in Hamburg, Germany. Johannes' father started to give him the first music lessons. By the age of 7, though, he was taught by the town's local piano teacher and had created his own musical notation system. That was all by the age of 7. Johannes practiced hard and was soon given giving concertos in Hamburg, as well as playing at restaurants and theaters to help support the financial needs of his family.
He was the young Wolverine.
yeah, just a sideburns.
At the age of 20, Brahms met two famous composers, Franz Liszt and Robert Schumann, which we both just went over. Schumann loved Brahms' music so much that he actually wrote about it in a music journal, which made him famous. And that's why we still talk about him today. This is something that probably not a whole bunch of people know. In 1889, American inventor Thomas Edison, I was about to say Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Edison there. He asked Brahms if he could play the piano for his newest invention, a recording machine. This major historic performance is one of the earliest recordings of a major composer because the opportunities Brahms had to perform, write, and record music made him one of the best composers of all time. In fact, he's also known as one of the 3 Bs, Brahms, Bach, and Beethoven. Brahms died on April 3rd, 1897 at the age of 63 years old. One of the most famous songs that Brahms wrote was Brahms' Lullaby. I think we have, yeah. Don't worry. I won't play the whole thing. I just want people to know that they've heard it.
instruments are playing right now?
Some type of string.
Double bass,
Some string instruments, right? Bow string
All right. I think if I play any more, somebody will probably start falling asleep. So I'll stop it there.
I'm becoming more energetic now.
Okay, and then finally, I'm gonna have to slow down a little bit because we still have about 10 more minutes. But finally, we have Camille Saint-Saëns. He probably wrote some of music that many of you guys may know but have never heard of the name. Charles Camille Saint-Saëns from 1835 to 1921. It's not that far away, actually. He was alive in the 20th century. He was a prolific French composer, organist, conductor, and pianist, regarded as one of the most prominent figures in Romantic music. His overture spans a wide range of musical forms and styles, reflecting his deep knowledge and appreciation for music history. Saint-Saëns was a child prodigy exhibiting extraordinary musical talents from a very young age, which paved the way for a rich, lifelong contribution to the world of classical music. Now, for you guys that have heard of what classical music was last month, you remember how there was two definitions for classical music? One of them was the actual classical music that spanned from 1700s to 1800s, roughly. And then the other definition of classical music was, remember all of the music that was written before, I think, the 21st century or the 20th century? That's what they're talking about for the classical music, the world of classical music, even though he did play in the Romantic era. Let's see. Beyond his compositions, Saint-Saëns played a vital role in the revival of interest in older music, such as the works of J.S. Bach and Handel, through his performances in Adversity. Yes, what he said.
Virtuosity. What does that mean?
It means the technique.
Yeah, it's the skill or the technique. So if someone has lots of virtuosity, it means they can play very technical pieces. It means, like that guy that we saw in there sweating, that was a very technical song. It takes a lot of skill to be able to play something like that.
And also, in the classical era, people didn't really like the Baroque style of playing, where in the Baroque era, they would kind of play two different melodies, which would be called counterpoint. So they would play two different melodies and all this other stuff. People in the classical era didn't like the music in the Baroque era. So they tried to reimagine music and try to write it their own way. But then we skip another maybe century or so, and people in the Romantic period really like the Baroque era, and they're trying to recreate music from the Baroque era, and they're trying to bring it back. So one of the many wonders that I still don't understand. Maybe one composer's trash is another composer's treasure, I guess. Saint-Saëns' composition include the famous Introduction and Rondo Capriccio, the dramatic Dance Macabre, and the Carnival of the Animals, a delightful suite that has charmed audiences with its whimsical portrayal of various animals through music. So there was a big suite that he wrote called the Carnival of the Animals. Basically, he would name all of them different animals. He wrote them as if while you were listening to it, it was almost as if there was a very rich man showing you different exuberant animals that he had inside of his private zoo. That's what, basically, exact words, basically. So that's what he was trying to portray inside of some of these. I'm going to play maybe the whole thing, but I'll play the Aquarium. This song that I'm about to play, not me personally, but the TV is about to show you. This song is called Aquarium, and what he's trying to get is that you're almost thinking of watching fish surrounding you, So without further ado, let's listen to that song. And also, you guys have probably heard this song maybe. If you've watched movies, this song has probably been in some type of movie that you've watched. Let's see. Yeah, maybe it'll play. Did it? Yeah. Maybe.
All right.
Maybe.
How about a round of applause for David for presenting all this?